Every species on this planet has had millions of years to adjust to life here. Fish grew gills so they could breathe underwater. Birds developed hollow bones so they could take flight. Polar bears grew thick coats to handle the Arctic cold. And then there's us. We get scorched by our own sunlight. Our spines are slowly breaking down. We give birth through a process so brutal it kills us at a higher rate than any other mammal alive. And we're the only species that ever looked around at the environment it grew up in and thought, something doesn't fit here. What if the reason we feel out of place on Earth is because we actually aren't from here? Let's start with your skin. Step outside on a sunny day, wait 15 minutes, your skin starts to burn, it turns red, it blisters, it peels. No other creature on Earth deals with this on this kind of scale. Lizards bask in direct sunlight for hours at a time. Dogs, cats, horses, elephants. They live their whole lives under that same sun without any issue. Their fur, their scales, their skin tone, all perfectly tuned to our star. Ours isn't. We actually had to create a chemical paste and smear it on our bodies just to safely step outdoors. Sit with that for a moment. We invented sunscreen because our own sun is essentially trying to kill us. Now think about your back. Roughly 80% of people will deal with chronic back pain at some point in their lives. When 4 out of every 5 members of a species share the exact same structural flaw, you stop pointing fingers at individuals and start questioning the design itself. Our spines are basically a horizontal bridge that evolution attempted to flip upright. The discs between our vertebrae get squeezed by gravity in ways they were never designed to handle. Other animals that walk on 2 legs, like kangaroos and ostriches, don't run into this problem. Their bodies were engineered from scratch to stand. Ours were just clumsily modified. Then there's childbirth. This part is brutal. Human childbirth is hands down the riskiest birthing process of any mammal on Earth. Our babies have heads so large they barely squeeze through the birth canal. Before modern medicine existed, childbirth was one of the top causes of death for women throughout history. No other species regularly loses lives just trying to bring offspring into the world. That's unique to us. A horse can give birth in roughly half an hour, and the foal is standing and walking within 60 minutes. A human infant can't even hold its own head up for months. We arrive completely helpless, relying on others for years, more dependent than any other creature that has ever existed. And then there's allergies. The immune system has a single purpose: keep you safe. But in humans, it frequently turns against things that pose no real threat at all. Pollen, peanuts, dust, cat hair, shellfish. Around 30% of people on Earth have allergies. Your own defense system is fighting against the air you breathe and the meals you eat. Either evolution slipped up somewhere, or your body was designed with a completely different environment in mind. But the weirdest part isn't physical at all. It's mental. No other animal on this planet understands that it's going to die. Dogs don't stay up at night wondering what happens after they're gone. Dolphins don't go through existential breakdowns. Elephants don't invent religions to make peace with the fear of dying. But humans do. Every single one of us. We're the only species walking around fully aware that someday we'll cease to exist. And rather than just accepting that, we've spent our entire existence trying to figure it out. We build temples, we write philosophy. We've constructed entire civilizations centered around the question of what comes after death. Why would evolution wire us this way? Honestly, what survival benefit comes from existential dread? Throughout most of human history, this awareness has pushed people toward despair, insanity, and war. It almost feels like something you'd see in a species that doesn't quite belong, aware enough to sense that something is wrong, but unable to pin down exactly what. And then there's the one piece that's the hardest to explain away. Every species on Earth fits into some kind of balance within its ecosystem. Predators control prey populations. Prey populations control plant growth. Decomposers return nutrients to the soil. It's a self-contained cycle. Every player has a role. Except us. We bulldoze forests. We contaminate rivers. We flood the atmosphere with gases that warm the entire planet. We've pushed thousands of species into extinction, and we show no signs of slowing down. We're not part of Earth's ecosystem. We're dismantling it. And honestly, that's exactly the kind of behavior you'd expect from an invasive species, something dropped onto a planet it was never designed for. It doesn't follow the rules because the rules were never written with it in mind. So if we really don't belong here, where did we actually come from? Back in 1973, Francis Crick published a paper that should have rocked the scientific community. He had already won a Nobel Prize in 1962 for figuring out how the molecule responsible for storing all of life's genetic instructions actually functions. He's considered one of the most influential scientists in history. In that 1973 paper, co-written with chemist Leslie Orgel, he put forward a radical idea. He called it directed panspermia, the theory that life on Earth didn't originate here at all, but was intentionally planted by an advanced civilization from somewhere else in the galaxy. The man who cracked the code of DNA looked at the origin story of life on Earth and basically said, "This doesn't add up to me." And the evidence supporting his suspicion is genuinely hard to brush off. Life appeared on Earth roughly 3.8 billion years ago. The planet itself is only about 4.5 billion years old. That means complex organic chemistry showed up just 700 million years after the planet formed. In geological terms, that's practically instantaneous. Earth was still being bombarded by asteroids, still cooling down from a molten, toxic hellscape, and somehow life emerged almost the moment conditions became survivable. Biologists have long found that timeline suspicious. Then there's the Murchison meteorite. In 1969, a space rock crashed down in southeastern Australia. When researchers opened it up, they discovered more than 90 different amino acids inside, the basic building blocks of life. And some of those amino acids are identical to the ones found in every living organism on Earth. Organic chemistry, just drifting through space on a chunk of rock. And here's the kicker. We know life can actually survive out there. Take tardigrades, those tiny creatures that look like 8-legged gummy bears. They've survived exposure to the vacuum of space, intense cosmic radiation, and temperatures close to absolute zero. And they made it through. In 2019, an Israeli spacecraft carrying tardigrades crashed onto the moon's surface. Scientists believe some of them might still be alive up there right now, just resting on the lunar surface, waiting. Life isn't confined to Earth. It can travel between worlds. In 2013, ecologist Dr. Ellis Silver released a book titled, Humans Are Not From Earth, compiling all the physical evidence suggesting we're poorly suited to this planet. The sunburns, the back pain, the allergies, the dangerous childbirths, even the fact that our circadian rhythm runs slightly longer than 24 hours. He argued these weren't just random evolutionary quirks, they were clues that we originated somewhere else. But here's where things get complicated, because mainstream biology actually has a solid explanation for nearly all of this. It's called evolutionary mismatch. And honestly, it might be even more fascinating than the alien explanation. Back pain. We've only been walking upright for about 6 million years. That might sound like a long time, but evolution moves at a glacial pace. Our spines simply haven't had enough generations to fully adapt to standing. We're essentially walking around in a prototype that never received its final update. Sunburn. We lost our body hair, and the leading theory is that it was for temperature regulation. When our ancestors left the forests for open savannas, they needed to stay cool while running for long stretches under the African sun. Sweat evaporates much more efficiently off bare skin than through fur. So we traded in our protective coating for the ability to outrun nearly every other animal on the planet. The sunburn is just the trade-off. Childbirth. Our brains expanded faster than our birth canals could keep pace. Scientists refer to this as the obstetric dilemma. Evolution was simultaneously trying to make us smarter and keep us walking upright. And our pelvises got stuck in the crossfire. It's messy, it's dangerous, but it makes sense. Even our destruction of the environment has a logical explanation. We evolved in small groups on the savanna, where resources seemed limitless compared to our tiny population sizes. Our brains are built for short-term survival, not for managing the ecosystem of an entire planet. We're not alien invaders, we're just a species that became way too powerful way too quickly for its own programming to keep up. So that wraps it up, right? Not exactly. Because even after all those explanations, there's still one thing evolutionary biology can't fully account for: the speed. No species in the entire 4 billion year history of life on Earth has ever done what we've done. Dolphins have existed for roughly 50 million years. They're intelligent. They have rich social structures. They communicate with each other. And in all that time, they've never built a single tool, not one. Chimpanzees figured out how to use sticks about 4 million years ago, and they haven't upgraded since. And then there's us. We went from sharpened stones to nuclear weapons in roughly 2 million years. From fire to the International Space Station. From cave paintings to artificial intelligence. From striking flint together to landing robots on Mars. 200 years ago, railroads didn't exist. 125 years ago, there were no airplanes. 75 years ago, we hadn't reached space. 35 years ago, the internet didn't exist. Nothing in the entire history of life on this planet has ever moved this fast. Nothing comes close. And scientists still can't agree on why. Some think it was language. Some think it was cooking, which provided more calories and allowed our brains to grow larger. Some point to a mutation in a gene called FOXP2 that may have enabled complex speech. Others credit our capacity to teach, to pass knowledge down through generations so each one builds on the last. All of these likely played some part, but none of them fully explain just how fast it all happened. Every other intelligent species on Earth needed tens of millions of years to develop gradually. We went from prey to ruling the entire planet in what amounts to a geological instant. Crick couldn't explain it, Silver couldn't explain it, and modern evolutionary biology can explain parts of it, but not the whole story, not yet. The most honest thing science can say right now is, we don't fully know. We have pieces of the puzzle, but not the complete picture. And that's exactly what keeps this question alive. And look, it's probably not true that we're aliens. The evolutionary evidence is solid. Mismatch theory accounts for most of the strange things about our bodies. We're almost certainly a product of this planet, shaped by the same forces that shaped everything else here. But almost certainly isn't the same as definitely. And when actual scientists, including one of the founding figures of modern genetics, look at the evidence and say something doesn't quite add up, that's not conspiracy theorizing. That's science doing exactly what it's supposed to do, asking uncomfortable questions and being honest when the answers aren't tidy. It's the same curiosity that made us look up at the stars in the first place. The same restlessness that drove us to build rockets and telescopes and send tiny robots to other worlds just to see what's out there. Maybe that restlessness isn't a flaw. Maybe it's a clue. Because if we really are from here, then we're the strangest thing this planet has ever created. A species that burns in its own sunlight, breaks down under its own gravity, and can't stop staring at the sky wondering where it truly came from. And if we're not from here, then we've been trying to find our way home for 200,000 years. And we don't even realize it.